Good evening again, everyone. We'd like to thank you for staying with us for this late edition of the 10 p.m. report. And we're now going to go to the man who got my vote today, because you gave us perfect weather.
Perfect weather here in
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Not to go to the polls.
That's right. We'll show you some other weather that wasn't that nice. I'm glad we got on before midnight. I'm always confused as to whether tomorrow's forecast is today's or tonight's is yesterday's.
Well, you got 10 minutes.
That's right. John Seidlitz shot this video for us tonight, and you can see that we have a little bit of breeze out there, and there's all the people streaming out of the election places tonight. How does that look? 52 degrees for a high temperature, 32 for a low, no precipitation, except for some sprinkles that moved through. At least they didn't fall at the airport, but if you were out around 8 o'clock tonight, you did have a little bit of shower activity brush through the Twin Cities area. Take a look at the satellite picture. You can see the big clear area we had over us today for the sunshine, and then the clouds started to roll in. By late this afternoon, they were already overspreading us, and out of some of those clouds, we did have some showers, but all that has moved on to the east temporarily, but more can develop out of that, and we think that it will throughout the daytime tomorrow. Now, you can see the showers. These have been moving in a north-northeasterly direction, and right now they're up in the central part of the state and over into western Wisconsin, up around Rice Lake, Grantsburg, in that area. Still a few little showers trailing from just south of Redwood Falls on down to the Iowa border, so still a chance at least of some sprinkles off and on through the night tonight. Election day weather, this is what it was like. Even a few flurries up in parts of upstate New York, parts of New Hampshire and Vermont, some showers down along the Gulf coasts of Mississippi and Alabama. We also had some showers at least move through parts of South Dakota and into western Minnesota, some thunderstorms down in New Mexico, and some showers up on the west coast. But for the most part, weather was pretty good, really. Tomorrow's weather map, the low pressure area moving on to the east, but enough circulation around that at least to keep the threat of some showers going. And if some colder air moves in behind that, the showers may change over to at least some light flurry activity before it all ends. That'll be sometime late tomorrow evening. High temperatures in the meantime will only be in the 40s. We hit the 50s today, but it looks like we'll probably stay in the 40s throughout the rest of the week. Cloudy outside right now, 44 degrees, 62% relative humidity, southeast winds at 7, a dew point of 32, and the barometer is falling. Our forecast then, cloudy with still a chance of some showers, 35 for an overnight low. Tomorrow we'll be looking at cloudy with light showers, 46. Some of those showers by tomorrow night could change over or become mixed with light snow, a low temperature of around 30, and for Thursday, mostly sunny again, and we'll have only 42 degrees for a high. The extended outlook, some of those showers could still be lingering around as some flurries early Friday morning, and then we'll be clearing up for Saturday and Sunday with high temperatures in the 40s.
Okay, you made it before the midnight deadline. Right. In a few hours, a few minutes, you can give another forecast altogether different.
That's right.
Thank you very much, Mike. For the newest member of the Minnesota Vikings is a former Green Bay Packer with a controversial past. We'll get all the details from Mark Rosen on sports in just a moment.
If you got a problem, don't care what it is.
A homeowner wanted to cut his energy costs, so he had NSP make a house call. NSP's consultant was glad to help with ideas that trimmed energy costs more than 20%.
It would sure do me good to do you good. I can help.
To use energy smarter in your home, in your business, call your NSP energy consultant. We can help.
Menards has big values like carpeting by Diamond Mills on sale now. Save on the Extra Plush High Society or the Riviera, both with attached Tangaback, now just $9.99 per square yard. Save 50% on wallpaper, too. That's right. All Berkeley and other pre-pasted wallpaper in stock, patterns for every room on sale now at half price. Hurry in, the sale ends this weekend at Menards.
We're helping you build America's heartland at Menards.
I guess it would be apropos on this election day to say that you're a man yourself with a little political past here. You ran for office once or twice, as I recall.
Still haven't recovered from that loss in '86, Tony. You know, a few thousand more votes, Rudy would have been sitting here doing the sports tonight. I would have been home sleeping.
You can sympathize with all the losers tonight. Oh, well.
Listen, in a move that is sure to stir up some highly charged emotions, the Minnesota Vikings have claimed former Green Bay defensive back Mossy Cade on waivers. Cade recently served 15 months of a 2-year sentence for second-degree sexual assault. But in the words of General Manager Mike Lynn, we would hope that the public believes, as we do, that a person who has made a mistake deserves a second chance. Cade last played with the Packers in 1986. He's number 24 here. Cade had asked the NFL to reinstate him this year. The league refused. The Vikings have placed him on the reserve list. He will not play here this season, won't even work out. They will evaluate his situation in the offseason and then look at him during next spring's minicamp. Cade was San Diego's first-round draft choice in '84, the 6th player overall drafted that year. That's why the Vikings are still interested in him. Tom Lange went to the polls today and voted for Kevin Sweeney. The Cowboys will start the second-year quarterback against the Vikings Sunday night based on his second-half performance at New York. Sweeney tossed 3 touchdowns in a 29-21 loss after relieving Steve Pallure. If you enjoyed watching the Los Angeles Dodgers win the World Series, you'll enjoy the Richfield football team. The Spartans finished 3-5 during the regular season, seeded last in Section 5. But the beauty of high school athletics, Richfield rattled off 3 straight wins and a section title. This week, the Spartans play unbeaten Blaine in the state quarterfinals. Richfield will be the heavy underdogs, but don't undersell tradition and an experienced coaching staff.
I think the coaching staff, we've been there before a little bit, know the level we have to get to, and we hope our kids are responding to that. They seem to be really working at trying to get to the level we think they have to if they're going to play and represent themselves very well.
The NHL has always been good at lip service on the subject of cracking down on foul play. This year, they are backing up their words with action. The league suspended Detroit's Miroslav Preacher for 10 days because of this slash that injured Murray Craven of Philadelphia. The league admitted that Preacher didn't try to hurt Craven, but he didn't exactly show restraint either. Preacher is the 5th player suspended for stick swinging this season. A degenerative back condition could end Jack Nicklaus's golf career. Nicklaus said he'll have to retire if doctors can't cure the pain in his back. Baseball broadcaster Joe Garagiola has left NBC today, saying the network delayed negotiations on a new contract and left the impression he was unwanted. And Jose Canseco has been named Major League Baseball Player of the Year by the Associated Press. This covers both leagues. Orel Hershiser finished 2nd in the voting. Kirby Puckett of the Twins came in 3rd. And the Twins should finish 1st tomorrow in the Cy Young voting. The question isn't, will Frank Viola win, but will the voting be unanimous? Dennis Eckersley, I think, of the Oakland A's will get a few votes, and Tom Hanneman of our staff is in Orlando. We'll hear from Tom and Frank Viola tomorrow, or today, at 5 and 6.
All right, well, let's hear it for Kirby. I like that.
All right.
Good
Nice
thing.
seeing you, Tony.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Well, that's going to do it for this abbreviated late edition of the 10 p.m. report. Please stay tuned for more coverage of Election Night 1988. Good night, everyone.
For big values and savings, come to Menard's Big Sale. Save on Z-Brick fire retardant facing brick for the authentic look of real brick or designer stone. On sale now starting at just $1.98 per package. Armstrong no-wax vinyl flooring is on sale too, in styles and colors to brighten any room. Choose Imperial Acetone, now just $4.59 per square yard. That's big savings this week at Menards.
We're helping you build America's heartland at Menards.
Since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
Beat the blitz of Old Man Winter. Win a trip for 2 over the rainbow to the NFL Pro Bowl in Hawaii. To enter, look for the beach ball display at participating Rainbow Foods. Then, beginning November 20th, watch Vikings Tonight with Mark Rosen. If we announce your name, you'll have 44 seconds to call in and win a trip to Hawaii or a Diet Coke Beach Party kit. Beat the blitz of winter. Have a beach ball in Hawaii with Channel 4. Tonight's election coverage is brought to you in part by Menards, your complete home improvement center. Live from WCCO Election Headquarters, this is Election Night 88 with Don Shelby, Colleen Needles, and Skip Loescher.
Welcome back to Election Night 88. Well, gentlemen, tonight we have seen Michael Dukakis concede to George Bush, and we have seen Skip Humphrey concede to Dave Durenberger.
We have indeed.
We are going to take a look, though, at how those results stacked up here in Minnesota. As you probably have heard, Michael Dukakis did take Minnesota. Let's take a look at some of the results from around the state. With more than 2,300 of the precincts in, Dukakis with 55% of the vote to Bush's 45% of the vote. However, around the rest of the country, he did not have such good news. Now, going on to the U.S. Senate race, Dave Durenberger, as we mentioned earlier, won the race here in Minnesota with 55% of the vote to Humphrey's 42% of the vote. Polly Mann, the independent, coming up way behind with just a few percentages of the vote.
The 8 Minnesota House races, the results still kind of trickling in at this point. I don't think, as far as I know, at least we do not have finals on all of them, but let's go through. We do have a significant number of precincts reporting in House District number 1. That's the U.S. House seat from southeastern Minnesota, the Rochester area. Tim Pennywell on his way to re-election there over the IR challenger, Kurt Schrimp. Over in southwestern Minnesota, the same could be said for his independent Republican colleague, Ben Weber, who tended to business this time around, stayed home, talked farm issues, got off foreign policy things, and is winning re-election. District number 3, Bill Frenzel with an astounding lead over Doug Carlson at this point, or Dave Carlson rather, 70% for Frenzel right now. Bruce Vento winning handily with 73% in St. Paul over Ian Maitland. Martin Sabo doing very well in Minneapolis, a 74% vote count as it stands right now over Buzz Gilbertson. In 6, Jerry Sikorsky winning handily over Ray Pletz, his independent Republican challenger. The only one that was supposed to be close is this one, northwestern Minnesota. Arlen Stanglin against Marv Hansen. The incumbent Stanglin hanging on right now with a 54 to 46 percentage point lead. Then District 8, Jim Oberstar winning with 77% of the vote. We have some statewide referendum, too, the state constitutional amendments that we can deal with at this point as well. Let's take a look at those now. To establish an environmental trust fund of up to $1 billion to preserve natural wetlands and to preserve waterfowl in this area. 80% the yes vote there. That one, if this continues, is a shoo-in, although there aren't that many precincts left to come in, but enough to possibly change the outcome, but that's an overwhelming vote right now. Number 2, to permit fewer than 12 people on juries for civil cases and on criminal misdemeanors and gross misdemeanor cases, winning now by just about a little under to 18 percentage points, 59% to 41. And then number 3, the statewide lottery. The money, by the way, some of the money from the statewide lottery would be used to fund that environmental trust fund. The lottery, a smaller margin, 57 to 43 at this point, but it's coming along pretty well as well. In fact, all 3 of those look like they may well win.
And Skip, there were also some amendments on the ballot in Minneapolis and St. Paul, and let's take a look at those results right now. Let's go to Minneapolis amendment. This is to change the organization of the city government. It would give the mayor and the executive council more power. So far, that amendment is not doing well in Minneapolis, with 99 of 182 precincts, about half reporting that one is losing by 51 to 49% margin. That still is too close, really, to tell with just half of the votes in. Moving along now to St. Paul, the Human Rights Amendment there is also losing. Voters were asked whether the human rights issue should be put to the voters or whether that should be taken, and city council should be allowed to make those decisions. The voters in St. Paul say no, they think the voters ought to be making decisions on issues of human rights. They defeated that amendment 56, or are defeating that amendment 56% to 44%. Yes.
What I'm doing is trying to check on whether that takes a simple majority, the Minneapolis and St. Paul charter amendments. Is that a simple majority, or does it take the same kind of voter turnout as the state proposals?
I am not sure on that question, Don. Whether
Good question,
yeah,
Don.
I think it is.
I think it's the same.
A non-vote counts as a no.
I think it is. I think because that's a state law as opposed to being anything that would be identified just as a single race. So I think it has to be a 10%, that same 10% turnout that we've been talking about all night. Pat Kessler is here, and he has been following those state house races. Any changes yet to report?
Many, many changes. The numbers are coming in very fast and furiously now. A lot of things happening all over the state. 134 House races. There are all the seats in the Minnesota House are up. In District 4B, we'll go through them quickly. Tony Kinkle, the DFLer, has a wide lead, 53 to 47, over Roger Gunsberry. In District 9B, this is a tight one. Marvin Downer, 51% to 49% over Merlin Vollen. In District 21B, Cooper over Gustafson, 55 to 45%. In District 24A, Mark Peepo. Well, that isn't quite right. We know 100% for Peepo. We're going to go on that. It clearly is not right. DeBleek in a very tough race with Jim Gerard, 50% to 50%, 34 52 precincts. We'll be watching that for some time yet to come. In District 27B, Andy Stevenson has a wide lead, 61% to 39%. In District 28A, Winter, 64% to 36% over Lease. In 34B, Pulowski, the incumbent, the Democrat, 57% to 43%. 36B, Jensen, Bob Jensen, 51% to 49% over Bill Macklin. That is a very close race. 37B, Dennis Osmond has a wide lead over George Bateman, 70 to 30%. In District 40A, Chris Chermholm, 56% to over David Sumnick's 44%. 2 of 8 precincts there. Mary Forsyth, very wide lead, 84% to 16% over Douglas Roy, the DFLer. District 43A, Berger over Kramer, 51 to 49%, another close race. In District 43B, Caswell over Knickerbocker. That's a very, very close race, 51% to 49%. Knickerbocker is the incumbent there. District 44A, Sally Olson has a wide lead over Sally Velick, 63 to 37%. District 44B, Gloria Siegel has a wide lead, 67% to 33%. In District 45B, Jim Heap is leading there, also the incumbent, 55 to 45%. Not a lot of surprises there. In District 46A, Ann Rest again, wide lead, 64 to 36%. 46B, Carlson over Covell, 62 to 38%. In District 47A, Linda Scheid also far, far ahead, 62 to 38%, 6 of 11 precincts there. Where are we now? Phil Carruthers over Sean O'Hara, 68 to 32%, District 47B. In 48A, Limmer over Miller, 72% to 28%. 1/3 of the precincts reporting there. That is a vacant seat. 48B, Bill Schreiber, 65% to 35% over John Hall, the DFLer. 49A, this one has been switching all night long. Charlie Weaver, 54% over Chuck Reich, 46%. That's been going back and forth. We're going to be watching that for quite some time to come yet tonight. In 52B, another surprise here. We've got Dick Pello, who's the new Brighton mayor, over Jim Senden, 54% to 46%. It looks like the Republicans are going to win that one. 53A, Tony Bennett, big lead, 60 to 40%. In District 53B, Brad Stanius, 61% to 39%. Looks like a winner there. 54A, Don Valento, 55%, 10-point lead over his opponent. In 54B, Dick Kostoritz, 57 to 43%. Another big, big lead for the incumbent there. 55B, Harriet McPherson. No surprises here. Again, a wide lead. 56A, Len Price. Looks like he's going to be a winner, too, 63 to 37%. All through these metro areas, DFLers are winning, too, 73% to 27% for Jim Rice. Looks like he's going to be reelected once again. In 57B, Richard Jefferson, big winner, beginning to appear, 75% to 25%. In District 58A, John Sarna, again, wide lead, 71% of the vote there. In 58B, Phyllis Kahn, 67-33%. Once again, the incumbent. Looks like she will be the winner. D. Long, 75% to 25%. Very lopsided numbers we're beginning to see here. 59A, again in Minneapolis. Inside the Twin Cities, not a lot of change. Todd Otis, 69 to 26%. Looks like he'll be the winner, too. And Davis, so that's also in 59B. Davis will not be winning there, of course. 60A, Karen Clark over Kevin Traynor, 71 to 29%. In 60B, Peter McLaughlin, wide lead over his Republican opponent. McLaughlin, again, the incumbent. 61A, Lee Greenfield, 59 to 41%. This race is a little bit closer, but Greenfield appears on his way to victory once again. He is the incumbent. 61B, Wes Skoglund, 74% of the vote. He is coasting to a victory there. And in 62A, we've got Nelson and Anderson, 62% again for the Ken Nelson, for the longtime education chairman in South Minneapolis. In Gene Wagenius, again, wide margins. The Democrats are winning all over Minneapolis, South Minneapolis in particular, inside the city. Here is a very, very close race, still too close to call. This is a House seat from the late Representative John Rose's district. Mary Jo McGuire apparently tied with Karen Bondi, 50% to 50%. Far, far too close to call. Looks like we're going to be up quite a while on that one. Ann Winia, big winner, 75% to 25% in St. Paul. And Kathleen Valenga also has a wide lead, 75% of the vote in her St. Paul district. She is the incumbent. 64B, Howard Ornstein appears to have a wide lead over Todd Caldus, his Republican opponent. Ornstein in office, again, the incumbent Democrat in St. Paul. And Andy Dawkins, big lead, 77%. The incumbents are having a very good night in Minneapolis and St. Paul and elsewhere in the state. Sandy Pappas, 75% of the vote in that St. Paul district. 66A, Tom Ossoff. Again, he was the supporter, the big pusher for the lottery, 75% of the vote in his St. Paul district. And Tony Trimble on the east side of St. Paul, 69% of the vote. He is also an incumbent. And we have one other race. We have something that we didn't see yet. It looks like we have an upset in District 40B. We've got Phil Rivness, who is trailing Joyce Henry, the Republican. At this point, folks, it looks like things appear to be a wash. The Republicans have lost 2 seats they hoped to gain, and the Democrats have lost 2 seats from incumbents. At this point, if we had to make a guess, it looks like there's going to be very little or no change in the makeup of the Minnesota House. Democrats will be in control. Still too early, no finals in yet, of course, but it looks like the Democrats are going to maintain control.
Okay, big question yet on John Rose's old seat there.
Yeah, look, a couple of the seats are very, very close.
Yeah,
a lot of seats like that, a few seats like that.
All right, Pat, thank you very much. I ought to tell you that we have an answer to my own ill-stated question about the charter amendment, whether it takes a simple majority or greater than that. It takes a simple majority. There's your answer. Thank you very much for the help.
I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in all of these returns coming in, we make things a little more difficult for ourselves than we have to.
Yes.
Oh, would we do that?
I don't know.
Heavens,
All right.
heavens, heavens. One of the landmarks of the United States Senate was Bill Proxmire of Wisconsin. He retired this year. He also had a tradition. He didn't think he had to spend a heck of a lot of money to get elected. Well, he didn't spend a heck of a lot of money to get elected. In fact, the last race he spent, he claims, $145.10 to win re-election. Hard to buy some things for $145 these days. Well, that all changed when he left. Susan Engelleiter, the Republican, and Herb Kohl, the Democrat. Herb Kohl spent well over $3 million of his own money, friends, before the primary in Wisconsin. And it seems to be paying off at this point. Engelleiter is trailing Kohl 46 to 54%. Kohl is the owner of the Milwaukee Bucks. His name is borne upon most of the supermarkets and many of the department stores in the state of Wisconsin. Very well known, hotly contested race, and he raised and spent an awful lot more money than the Republican did there. Now, in North Dakota, by the way, Proxmire retired because he said he'd be too old to serve in the Senate again. Well, Quentin Burdick doesn't think he was too old to serve in the Senate again in North Dakota. Quentin Burdick, the incumbent Democrat, is 80 years old right now, and he's well on his way to winning another 6-year term over his Republican challenger, Earl Strendon. Burdick, a virtual shoo-in to be back. He'll, of course, then be 86 when this term is over, and he's never been a power in the Senate for his entire time there.
Well, Skip, we also have some returns coming in now from around Hennepin County. Let's take a look at those. We have 3 seats on the Hennepin County board on the ballot. In District 2, Randy Johnson with a commanding lead over Jim Swanson with 18 of 58 precincts in. In District 3, John Keefe with a very commanding lead, 75% over Tom Beaver with 31 of 63 precincts in. And going on to District 5, Tad Jude with a 56 to 44% lead over Dale Klausnitzer with 27 of 77 precincts in. Now moving along to a park commissioner, Hennepin County Park Commissioner from District 4, Whitaker with 54% of the vote over Weber with 46% of the vote. That, however, is with just 9 of 66 precincts in. Moving along to the Soil and Water Supervisor in District 1 with 141 precincts in, Burroughs with 66% of the vote appears to be the victor there over Abeen with 34%.
All right, we've still got some other people to check with, including our own Alan Cox, who's been standing by all night to deliver to us those figures been established by the North Star poll. And Alan is standing by at the College of St. Thomas. Alan, are you there?
I am, Don. All of our pollsters have left us, but they left us with the results of calls to 1,600 Minnesota voters today. And we want to take one more look at what we found in the Senate race. We're showing in our final run of the North Star poll about a 20 percentage point margin for Dave Durenberger over Skip Humphrey. On the issues, you'll see that Durenberger is down a little bit from that 56%, but really Humphrey could make no inroads. On the question of who would be best on dealing with crime and drugs, Durenberger clearly the leader. Who would be best for farmers? Once again, Durenberger clearly the leader. Who would be best for managing the economy? Durenberger by 2-1. And the statistic we told you about earlier, did you have an unfavorable impression of one of the candidates? 50% of the voters said they had an unfavorable impression for Humphrey. His unfavorable rating rose as the campaign got hotter this fall. He only had a 32% unfavorable rating in September, and an apparent sign of how the campaign got nasty, and the voters apparently blamed Skip Humphrey more than they did the incumbent. If you look at the map, you can see this is a very strong sweep for the independent Republicans. Durenberger, the apparent leader in all parts of the state except for northeastern Minnesota, and we can't even definitely from our poll give northeastern Minnesota to Skip Humphrey. It appears that it's too close to call. Humphrey with only a 1 percentage point lead in that area in our tally. We'll have to see the final tabulation tomorrow afternoon to know for sure what happened there. You compare that with the president and you see that Minnesotans are still prepared to split their votes. The blue area, Dukakis, carried in northeastern Minnesota and in the suburbs of the Twin Cities. Bush clearly winning in the northwest part. And the Hennepin County and Ramsey County were pretty much split evenly. Dukakis doing well in the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Bush doing very well in the western suburbs of Hennepin County, and southern Minnesota split fairly well between the two parties. We can tell you from our other poll results that we were talking about earlier that Dukakis apparently did well late in the campaign among Minnesota voters on the issue of the environment and on who would be best with crimes and drugs. And we did have a little bit of a gender gap here in Minnesota, not as large as the one CBS was talking about in some other states, but women among our sample went for Dukakis by 7 percentage points. Men in Minnesota went to Bush by 1 percentage point. Overall, it appears to be a somewhat narrow victory for Dukakis, and once again, Minnesota voters have shown their proclivity for splitting their ballots. Don?
All right, my final question is, are you going to stick around now, or are you going home?
Well, Don, I love this. I'm going to stay here and kind of, no, I'm going.
Okay, good idea. Thanks for all your help, Alan. That's been one of the highlights of tonight's coverage, is having Alan there, and he does that so well.
Oh,
and he has so much
really
information.
does.
Thank you.
He really does. It's interesting, and to see why the voters voted the way they did and how they split their votes. Well, if you live around the Twin Cities area and haven't seen the results you've been looking for, don't despair. We're going to show you some more of the results from around the suburban areas now as we go to another break. So please stay tuned.
My new shirt. Mom's gonna kill me. No problem. That's what washing machines are for, right? Right.
Another unreported stain. You know, the kind your family doesn't tell you about till it's through the dryer and set for life. That's why you should add Biz Bleach to every wash load to find many unreported stains and lift them up and away. Even though unreported stains have a way of slipping into your wash, they can't get by Biz.
Most health plans talk about choice. But when you go to their clinic, your choices quietly slip away. You may be losing the right to choose your doctor, to change doctors anytime, to see a specialist without a referral. One health plan provides these 3 freedoms for you. PHP. And if you don't have freedom of choice, what do you have?
If you don't give to the United Way this year, who will?
Welcome Welcome back to election night 88. Actually, I think we're the next day past election
Yeah,
night
it does appear to
88.
be.
We're going to wrap this up pretty soon, we promise.
We are, but we can't do that until we have heard from the two most sage and wise individuals we have here at WCCO TV. The fire's still burning both in their hearts for the Constitution of the United States and behind them there. In that
Oh,
seat.
that's well said.
Thank you.
Go a little slower so we can write it down.
What do you want, Don? Oh. Let's look at that Minneapolis amendment. It's the closest vote of the entire evening in the state of Minnesota. It took an early lead in favor, fell behind, went into a dead heat about an hour and a half ago, and now it is trailing 51 to 49% with about 50% of the votes. And we will probably not know until tomorrow morning's paper whether Mayor Fraser and Dayton's are going to have a powerful influence in the city. I say that not facetiously, because Mayor Fraser has been very outward about soliciting Dayton contributions to this Amendment 112. Dayton has been forthcoming with the money. It's something that has irked every member of the city council except Alderwoman Barbara Carlson. It does, what the amendment does, it gives the mayor more power in working in coordination with an executive committee of the council.
Only you and I would think this is a gut-grabber issue, but the fact is this has been hotly contested around the city. They passed, now the city unions, police and fire unions, municipal employee unions, passed this literature out door to door. On the other hand, Don Fraser and members of the business community or whoever backed them went out passing similar literature, only saying vote yes for this amendment door to door. And an issue, I think, is who governs the city. It's clear that this isn't the first time they've had a strong mayor charter amendment up. It's been up 3 times before and beaten down, but this is the closest it's ever come.
Opponents say neighborhoods will lose, using that generally loose term. Why would neighborhoods lose when you've got a strong mayor working with a strong committee and not a diverse, spread out bureaucracy?
Well, I suppose because if the council loses a little bit of power, then the neighborhoods can more easily influence the council member in that particular ward. I think the ones who are afraid they're going to lose are the unions. Police and fire unions are sitting in front of the firehouse at 26 in Bloomington saying, vote no on this amendment, and those same unions are negotiating with all of the members of the city council for a new wage contract. So I suspect there's just a touch of self-interest in this thing, don't you?
And, oh yes, and again, the simple majority it takes to pass it, and I say it may be in the late editions of the morning paper. At St. Paul Amendment, both these amendments are of such convoluted verbiage. I think it's difficult for...
140 words in this little Minneapolis hugger.
Oh, is that right? I didn't count them.
It's got a question mark at the end, too.
The St. Paul... Did they say wrap it up? I want to explain... do I have a moment to explain this? Thank you very much. No, I've forgotten what I was going to say. The St. Paul Amendment has been supported by the Rabbi Raskus of the Temple of Aaron, Archbishop Roach of the Archdiocese, Bishop Lowell Erdahl of the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America. All the denominations in St. Paul have supported this. A very extremely liberal mayor, George Latimer, is going to be very irked by the results we're getting right now. 56% are against the amendment, 44% say yes. What the amendment does, it prohibits the use of a referendum to repeal laws that are based on sex, religion, race, age, sexual orientation. Primarily, this has been supported strongly by the gay and the lesbian minorities in the city of St. Paul. And I don't know, 10 years ago, when they voted against this ordinance and Mayor Latimer won the greatest plurality any mayor's ever won in St. Paul, it showed extreme diverse interest. And I think the mayor right now must be heart-sick at what the results are on this amendment.
There wasn't the kind of angry invective there was 10 years ago, and one would have thought this passed at the time it come. It simply did not.
10 years ago, and I use the term in its severest sense, a demagogue pastor named Roger Anglin took the stand against this, and he's a very charismatic young man, and he was able to convince the people of St. Paul that civil rights, if anybody can do this, for gay and lesbian people should not be allowed. In this day and age, in a Western society in 1988, it's hard for me to fathom that anybody would vote against anybody else's civil rights.
I tell you, they're not all dead. My wife wrote a letter in support of this charter amendment to the St. Paul Pioneer Press and Dispatch. 5 days after it was published, she got the first piece of hate mail claiming she was dead wrong and maybe slightly touch communist.
See, I think despite the fact that it was supported by all of the religious denominations and the mayor of St. Paul, They weren't as aggressive in their support as the opponents to the amendment have been in their opposition to the amendment.
We're still afraid, David, of people with different lifestyles, different beliefs. Ain't that amazing?
In 1988.
Being the fire is going out, maybe we ought to leave.
Yes, well, I suppose we speak for everyone when we say, let's wish George Bush good health.
Yeah.
You agree?
I'm with you. Thanks. One more time. It will be around 2 years from now.
We're both nasty old men.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. People will be glad to know that this entire thing has been transcribed. Will be coming out as a book, followed by a movie. It'll be called Two Guys with an Attitude. Thank you very much. Another bright spot in our coverage. That's what sets us apart, I think, at least those two individuals set us apart. Hope you've enjoyed it.
We'll probably find them sleeping up there tomorrow morning, too.
Now, we want to go out to Independent Republican headquarters, where we have a couple of reporters standing by who put in some long hours tonight. Darrell Savage, Mike Walsher, what are your final words?
Don, the party's breaking up now, but you get the feeling most of the people here don't want to leave just yet. The Republicans wanted a sweep, and they got just that. They wanted another Republican in the White House, and they wanted Senator Dave Durenberger back in Washington, and they got it.
It was a near sweep anyway. They wanted Bush to win in Minnesota. That may not happen, but at least they made it a very close race against Dukakis. They also wanted to win about a dozen seats in the State House of Representatives. That may not happen. We won't really know those full results until tomorrow. Nonetheless, they won the big ones. And I think after covering 10 years of these IR events, as I have for CCO, my thoughts are that it's no longer a big surprise to these people or to us in the media. 10 years ago, when Durenberger, Boschwitz, and Quee were elected first, it was the Minnesota Massacre. It was a big shock, a big surprise. And now Durenberger beats Skip Humphrey by a large margin. It was expected. The polls said it would be that way. And certainly independent Republicans have to be very happy that they've made their party certainly not the dominant party in the state, but it's moved up nearly equal with the DFL, and certainly it has denied the dominant position to the DFL through its gains over the last few years.
One of the things that comes to mind to me, Mike, is the fact that we saw so many young people here. A lot of young Republican voters, and a number of people we spoke with talked about the importance of that to the Republican future. And one of the things that we had also noticed is the fact that there seems to be a growing movement, a lot of people here to show their enthusiasm to get others to come out and vote. I couldn't believe the number of young people I saw who were too young to vote who were out here still supporting the Republican Party. And Mike, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of changes in the future.
Right, and I think we should point out a little bit about the personal triumph for Dave Durenberger, who's had such problems in his personal life over the past couple of years. That's back in order, and his political career is in fine shape now.
Certainly. All right, we'd now like to throw it to Mike and Cindy, who are standing by at the DFL headquarters.
Thing, you're here, there, and they're here. Here you are. Where they finished in order tonight. Now we have the DFL headquarters, Mike Strand, Cindy Hume.
We're just talking about the order for breakfast, weren't we, Mike?
You were trying to get this done before they crate us up and cart us away.
Truly, the whole place is torn down. We don't have people dancing here. We've got the podium torn down. The media has moved out of here. We're it, folks. We're all that's left. Mike, what do you want to say about the Humphrey campaign?
You got the impression tonight, really, to be very serious, that this campaign was over before the music even started tonight, because Attorney General Humphrey avoided the media all night, avoided all contact with even his supporters. He snuck in through a side door to the hotel. He was holed up in his hotel room throughout the evening, except for when he went out and visiting friends and supporters, and even after telling us that he was going to make an appearance with his campaign staff, apparently snuck them through his room and was talking to them privately and really tried to avoid any contact with the public tonight, and I think that was indicative of his feeling. I think it was a very deep hurt. I think, although he said it's a better start for Minnesota and that there's going to be some improvements, particularly on the campaign issue, talking about the dirty tactics that were employed on both sides, he says it'll make a difference. I think even though the voting is over, I think the bitterness still lingers.
I think, speaking about the Dukakis campaign, there was a bright spot. Obviously, they were happy that Minnesota voted for Dukakis. They said two reasons. The commitment that Dukakis made to Minnesota. He was here 13 times through the course of this campaign. Also, he had a very aggressive field operation. Pat Frasia, his campaign head here in Minnesota, said they made some 300,000 calls. They were out all day trying to get the vote out. They did very well up in northeastern Minnesota, which is where they needed to do well. Obviously, they're very upset that he didn't win. They are happy with their effort here. So I guess if there is a good thing to say about what happened here tonight, is that the Dukakis campaign people were proud of what they accomplished.
Absolutely, and many were urging him not to concede tonight at the podium, and it was not for lack of effort. I think it was just to be, and it was closer than I think some people had projected.
Very, very much so. That's it from here. I think we're going to say goodnight, right, Don?
Can we go home, Don?
Yeah, go ahead. Order breakfast.
All right, we will.
See you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Cindy, and to Mike and Daryl standing by at IR headquarters. We don't want to finish the evening before we take a check with Pat Kessler and find out the last words on what happened in the State House. Pat.
Well, I'll tell you what, thank God for Pat Garcia and the Dukakis campaign. If they hadn't been in charge of the Dukakis campaign, Dukakis might have lost. They won despite all the effort of the Dukakis campaign. George Bush came very, very close. I was talking to the Speaker of the Minnesota House just a short time ago, and he was saying that he views this election in three things. He says it was a vote against negative campaigning on the national level. Minnesota went for Dukakis. On the Senate level, they went for Dave Durenberger and against Skip Humphrey. And also on the levels of the Minnesota House, he believes that the Republicans had a negative campaign, and he believes that this campaign was a campaign against negative campaigns. So the final of this still needs to be sorted out, but that's the way he sees it.
Do you think future candidates are going to take a lesson from that?
Oh, yes.
Or we're going to see more of the same kind of campaign?
Although I heard today someone say, and I think it might have been the wisdom of a Mike Wallace, who said it's here to stay because it works.
Yeah.
It worked for George Bush nationally. It didn't work for him here.
I agree.
I'd like to say thank you to Skip Loescher for coming in here.
It was fun.
Well, you know, you are a guy who knows more about Minnesota politics than just about any guy I've ever met, and you add so much to our coverage. And my first opportunity to work with you on a big set like
Hey, it's nice not to be off in Never Never Land there. I mean, Washington may be a nice place to be, but I'm all by myself out there most of the time. It's lovely to have real live human beings sitting next to me instead of kind of talking into a camera all the time. One point I think that I need to make, at least before I say goodbye, is folks did more tonight than just elect the President of the United States. They shaped the future of the United States Supreme Court for the next 20 years. There are going to be probably at least 3 vacancies in the U.S. Supreme Court in the next 4 years. And George Bush is certainly not going to select liberals to fill those seats. There's already a conservative majority placed there by Ronald Reagan. That majority is going to get larger and much more entrenched. And you will see interpretations in law that will affect us all for years to come because of this election tonight.
For those of people who said that there wasn't a hair's breadth difference between the two candidates, that by itself is perhaps the most significant of all.
In my opinion, it is.
We should also perhaps mention there were several races that were too close to call, that were very close, even as we gave the last round of results. We will, of course, update those beginning tomorrow on the noon report here on Channel 4, so we hope you tune in for that.
And Colleen will be back to do suburban race intros at 3, 4, and 6 a.m. or something. Yeah,
She comes in as a veteran now at 2 national conventions and handled, I think, this thing in an amazing fashion. I'm in awe.
I've been proud to sit next to her. I know that.
This is the first big election that I've been a part of.
That.
And I'm humbled to be in this kind of company.
That's the first time you've ever been humbled.
It takes a lot to do that. So
I think it's time we say goodnight. What do you think?
No, let's thank some more.
Okay.
Mom, goodbye now.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you tomorrow. Or today, I guess it is.
Good night. Good day.
Somewhere in all these dusty law books, a great idea got lost. The idea that law is for people, and people should be able to afford it. At Hyatt Legal Services, we took the fear out of legal fees. You can consult with one of our lawyers for just $20. And for cases like divorce, wills, accidents, and bankruptcy, we tell you our fee up front. I'm Joel Hyatt, and you have my word on it. We took the fear out of legal fees across the country and in your neighborhood.
Pizza Hut announces a very special deal. Right now, our large specialty pizzas are just $9.99 each. Get a cheese lover's pizza, smothered in layers of cheese and toppings. Or a meat lover's pizza, loaded with 6 delicious meats. Or even a supreme pizza, piled high with mouth-watering toppings. At just $9.99 each, our large specialty pizzas come with a price you'll really eat up. Pizza Hut, making it great.
Now at Dairy Queen, it's the DQ Homestyle Ultimate. We start with a juicy homestyle patty, add melted cheese, and yet another homestyle patty. Then we top it off with our own tasty sauce, savory bacon, ripe tomatoes, and fresh lettuce, too. You can see why it's the ultimate taste. Try one today. You won't want to miss it. The new DQ Homestyle Ultimate.
We treat you right. Menards has big values like carpeting by Diamond Mills on sale now. Save on the extra plush High Society or the Riviera, both with attached Tangaback, now just $9.99 per square yard. Save 50% on wallpaper, too. That's right. All Berkeley and other pre-pasted wallpaper in stock, patterns for every room on sale now at half price. Hurry in, the sale ends this weekend at Menards.
We're helping you build America's heartland at Menards.